3 lanes, towers, creep, and an assortment of heroes. MOBAs. You guys know them. In fact, there's a good chance just about every single one of you has played a MOBA at some point in time. League of Legends, Dota, Smite, Heroes of Newerth, Heroes of the Storm, Overwatch? Well, maybe. Sure, Overwatch isn't a MOBA now, but it could be at some point in the future. And this goes beyond my own wishful thinking. There's evidence in the game itself pointing to the possibility of a MOBA game mode. So let's take a look at some of that evidence and talk about what it would be like. First of all, I want to say that the framework already exists. We have a roster of 22 heroes, and that list will just keep growing. Each hero has their own unique skills and game-changing ultimates. So we have heroes, and a map with towers would be easy enough to add. But what about creep? Besides the training dummies, this game doesn't have much in the way of AI enemies. Well, let's not forget that Overwatch began as a much larger thing, Project Titan, a first-person shooter hero MMO that Blizzard spent around 7 years working on. They ultimately decided that game wasn't up to their standards and spun it off into Overwatch, which evidently, the structure of Overwatch is simply the battleground PvP from Project Titan. Point being, in all the time they spent making Titan, they created working enemy AI for our heroes to fight. They could no doubt spin that work into Overwatch, make a map with some lanes and towers, add AI creep to push down those lanes, toss our heroes into the mix, and voila, Overwatch The MOBA. But this is all just daydreaming. Is there any evidence that Blizzard is even thinking about making a MOBA game mode? Well, actually yes. There are several currently unused sound files found in the game that allude to such a thing existing. First off, we've got Winston and Reaper talking about setting up and getting in defensive positions.
Set up here.
Get on defense.
And then we have the announcer discussing major game events that are as of yet unknown.
Alert. Weapons discharge detected in Ordnance Bay. I am detecting an enormous amount of data transfer from the monastery.
But both of these could apply to anything really. Anything more substantial? Well, yeah, there's discussion of treasure, gear, and leveling up.
What magnificent treasure is this?
What treasure is this?
I could use some new gear. Ooh, I wonder what I got.
New advancements discovered.
New hero level.
But the treasure and gear could be talking about hero-specific loot, and the leveling up could be anything. Maybe that has to do with leveling up characters or something. Maybe there was character progression at some point. But what about this? The mention of assigning skill points.
I've leveled up. Time to assign those skill points.
I mean, that right there, on top of everything else, talking about setting up different positions, major events in game modes being announced, treasure, gear, leveling up, assigning skill points. You can look at any of those individually and say this could be for any game mode, it could apply to anything, but when you look at them collectively, it really points to the thought that they were thinking of something along the lines of a MOBA-esque game mode, where your heroes will level up, they'll be acquiring gear from a shop, and they'll be getting skill points to assign, changing how the hero functions. This is a lot of stuff pointing to the possibility of Overwatch the MOBA existing at some point. But do I think it'll happen? Honestly, probably not. Because everything we just talked about, leveling up, assigning skill points, getting gear, turns Overwatch into a drastically different game. And I don't know that Blizzard wants to have one game be two very, very different things. And then it's also not very likely for two other major reasons. First of all, it would split the player base. As it is, they don't even let you queue for specific game modes, of which this game has 3. You just join the queue and randomly are assigned to one of them. Now, one of the main reasons they do this is so that they don't split the player base and that they can shorten queue times. Because if everyone's queuing for just assault or just payload maps, then the queue times for those other game modes will increase drastically, and they're trying to avoid that. The second major reason I think it's not very likely that an Overwatch game mode will happen is that Blizzard already has a MOBA, Heroes of the Storm, and there's a really good chance they're not interested in competing with their own game. They don't very often release two very similar games or games in the same genre. I guess the biggest thing you could point to is the StarCraft and Warcraft RTS games. But even then, the Warcraft RTS functions very differently. And honestly, it's been a long time since our last Warcraft RTS. Are we going to get a new one? That's a big question on everyone's mind, especially with the success of WoW. And there's been a lot of people saying that Blizzard isn't going to make another Warcraft RTS until the World of Warcraft just dies. So maybe going forward, they're not interested in competing with their own games. In fact, many people say that Project Titan, the MMO that they were working on, is partially not existing because they also don't want to compete with WoW. Beyond any of the reasons that they've given of the game not feeling fun enough, or they feel like it wasn't living up to their standards, it could just be that they don't want to release two games anymore that are in the same genre, and that's not all that surprising. So whether or not this would happen, which unfortunately I don't think it will, it's really interesting to think about and talk about, and it's interesting to look at some of the evidence that points to it possibly happening. Those sound files are a really big indicator that Blizzard is at least thinking of something along these lines. It's crazy to me. Leveling up your hero, getting gear for your heroes, assigning skill points? What? It's nuts, and who knows, maybe all that's just tie over from the actual MMO, because all of those things are MMO-like. Very much so. Either way though, it's interesting. I thought it'd be fun to talk about, and I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Thank you all so much for watching. As always, let me know your thoughts and opinions in the comment section below. Do you think that this could ever happen? Why or why not? Did you like the video? Let me know, guys. Love to hear your thoughts. Thank you so much. Hope you all have a fantastic afternoon, and until next time, I'll see you later.